I also don't say African Americans. I find it cumbersome and confusing. Which part of Africa are we talking about? Egypt? Egypt is in Africa, but Egyptians aren't black. They're like the people in India. They're dark brown white people, but they're Africans. So why wouldn't an Egyptian citizen who becomes an Egyptian who becomes a U.S. citizen be called an African American? The same would apply to South Africa. Suppose a white racist from South Africa becomes an American citizen. Couldn't he call himself an African American? If for no other reason than just to bother black people. And what about a black person born in South Africa who becomes an American citizen? Is he an African American or is he a South African American? Or is he simply a South African American African American? You know, it's just so much more tedious.
If you really want to not offend people, stop calling people African Americans.
Yeah.
Use the word African, and you're insinuating 12.5% or higher African blood. There's a lot of black races. The Moorish people, all these other cultures, all these other bloodlines that would never in a million years be. It even says right in the definition, all colored people, Negroes are always colored people, but not all colored people are Negroes. Literally one of the definitions right out of the book. What that definition is referring to is there's a lot of black races that are not of African descent. When you say African American, you're saying persons. You're calling them a persons. We think that's friendly. We think that's kind. And we don't realize that we're essentially insinuating that they are a released slave of African descent. And we're insinuating they are a persons and not a people. I wonder if you'd have more standing as neither than you would as a persons. If I wasn't a free white man and I had to choose between being a persons or being just nothing, I'd almost say I'd rather be stateless or have nothing. But say a real dark-skinned Brazilian person. What is their bloodline? What is their... Certain Indian tribes have very dark skin. There were people who were here in America even before us that had dark skin, and they're out in the sun all the time, or what? Who knows what? And then they look even darker than they really are.
You from Nigeria?
Yeah, I'm Niger boy, bro.
You're African, bro.
Yeah, I'm African, bro. I'm not denying the fact.
You're not black, bro. You're African.
Being African is being black. Are you dumb?
Nah, bro. On God, there's a difference. Okay, so you're black, yeah? If someone's black, like they carry the culture, the heritage, you know, all that stuff of a black person, you know. But an African guy, he has different culture, he has different everything. And if you look at when you talk black, I'm thinking like African American, like the black guys you see in the U.S. But then when you say African, I'm thinking of all the Niger boys, you know, all those guys, you know, Ghana and all that stuff. It's very different people.
Ever since my mom gave birth to me, I've never seen anybody as stupid as you. You are beyond stupid. I'm lost of words to describe how stupid you are, bro. You make me lose a brain cell. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I might gotta go to bed after this. Like, I'm done streaming.
Finds himself in exile in his own land. Now, have you ever wondered what that passage meant from Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech? I did, and what I found was one of the biggest secrets that's not really a secret at all, except to many African Americans, is they are not descended from Africans. I know, I was shocked too, so much so that I asked Africans, and they agreed African Americans weren't Africans. If you don't believe me, Google Arnaldus Montanus America and see the people he saw in 1671. Read books like The Black American Handbook for Survival through the 21st Century by Radine Amin-Ra. What Every African American Should Know by Carrie Davis, and Africans and Native Americans by Jack Forbes. I just can't believe schools aren't teaching this stuff. What a travesty.
Dark-skinned, woolly-haired, heavily melanated beings inhabited every square inch of the planet Earth long before the continents even shifted. So in 1492, when Christopher Columbus and his Spanish conquistador buddies came over here under the Spanish Inquisition and the doctrine of discovery and discovered a land that had already been inhabited for millions of years, that had a highly developed, highly advanced civilization already here, they found highly melanated, woolly-haired, copper-complected people, the organic to the land, original people of the Americas, with a highly developed civilization. There's actually more pyramids on this side than there is on that side. In fact, the pyramids over here are older than the ones at Giza. The pyramids over here are older than the ones at Giza.
No, Black Americans are American. They are not African. The vast majority of Black Americans living here today are American descendants of slavery. And because of this legacy of slavery, their connections to Africa are so distant and they have been severed that they do not have any real connections to it today. Nationality-wise, culture-wise, and everything else, they are American, not African. In fact, even the concept of ethnicity, their ethnicity would be Black American, not some form of African. And no, race does not make them African. Race is a social construct, and it's a pseudoscientific one at that. Not to mention, all human beings have their origins in Africa, depending on how far back we go. So this entire concept of, well, we have to consider the blacks African, is just racism. Black Americans are American just like I am an American. I am not a European American. I have literally no connections to Europe at all. I am American, and so are Black Americans. Quit trying to divide people by the color of their skin, and instead, let people identify as they please.
In another comment, you said, how do you know I'm not American? When all of your content has you in Papua New Guinea. Just yesterday, you posted a photo of you standing outside a place that is only in Papua New Guinea. I think it's really insidious what you're doing, because I think you think that I don't know better. I think that you think that my understanding of racial politics in America means that I'm just going to take your word on it as a woman who is not a Black American over Black Americans because you are Black. And I'm sorry to tell you, you picked the wrong one. Sydney Sweeney is an American actress currently working in America. The subject of discussion is her ad for American Eagle, and we are discussing white supremacist dog whistles because of the history that they have in America. Not only do I generally think that non-Americans need to kind of sit out some discussions that have nothing to fucking do with them, but the reason I think that is not because it has nothing to do with them. I mean, unfortunately, America is in such a position internationally that it kind of has something to do with everybody. But my thing is, you are unlikely to have built in the lived experience of picking up on these things if you did not grow up here. I'm not going to take your word on it as a woman from Papua New Guinea like I will a woman from America. Because a Black woman in America is likely to have a history of picking up on these signals and cues, seeing the patterns as they existed throughout generations in America. Whereas you, I don't know if you're from Papua New Guinea, but from your accent, I would say that you're probably not from America. You do not have that. I think in a weird, twisted way, you are weaponizing your Blackness because you think that I won't know better, with the intention of ultimately just harming Black people that I am around here in America. Because I think the goal is that I'm just going to blindly take your word on it as if I think that's how it works. All that being said, let's say hypothetically, you were a Black American and you said this same sentiment. Sydney Sweeney's right. You guys are just making stuff up. It's just an ad that means nothing else. You guys are bullying her. And if that were the case, I might feel a little less defensive. But at the same time, I reserve the right to know what the fuck I'm talking about when it comes to the way that white people are conditioned to be. If I'm being very honest, I think there's a not small possibility that when making the ad, she didn't really think it through. I think that's a very likely possibility because I'm not really getting the impression that she is somebody who thinks about other people like that. But the thing is, it would have been so easy to say, yeah, I saw that. I didn't mean it that way at all. But that's not what she said. She said nothing. She said nothing. It would have been so easy. Like, did you see how quickly I got those words out? Like, how little airtime it would have had to have taken up in the interview? And she chose not to, intentionally. That was intentional. Because if you are somebody who is not from America, you are probably fed a very white version of things, very white perspective of things. And it is a very common white thing to not really know what the fuck is going on until somebody tells you what the implications of the thing that you just did are. But the problem is that many people told her what the issue was, and we have now told her many times what the issue is. So at this point, it is intentional. I know it when I see it. I know when I see somebody who is not being ignorant. For you to tell me that I don't know my own people, that I don't know what the fuck we're up to, don't piss me off. Bullying her, a multimillionaire, I'll never cry tears, lose sleep over bullying a multimillionaire, especially one who has fucked up in such a public way and in such an easily preventable way. I can't believe you are a medical professional. That's hilarious and scary and sad. Yes, you are